Hello, and welcome back to Between Two Torches. I'm Ellie Barrows, and today I'm joined by Josh Michna, a sophomore fashion media and marketing major here at Lasell. He also owns Bushland, a clothing brand that he started. Welcome, Josh. How are you today?
I'm great. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for joining us. So to start, we're going to talk a bit about Lasell. What drew you to come to Lasell?
So I'm a very practical person. I'm a person who likes to plan a lot. That's how I was raised. I plan my whole week. I plan months. I have the calendar on my wall and I plan in advance. So there are a lot of things that I wanted to think about when coming here, and there's a lot of factors that make it a great school to go to. I mean, there's great faculty, great staff. I spoke to a lot of people at the open house when I came, and I really like the proximity to Boston. I like the city aspect, being from the country. I like to see the city and walk around.
I had very similar reasons. So you decided to major in fashion marketing. What made you choose that focus in the fashion, field of fashion?
So I design a lot in my free time, as I'm sure this is kind of obvious, but I wanted to take that side of it, the business side of it and the communication side of it, to get more information in that sense. You know, because that's what I don't know. Like, I can figure out the design stuff myself for the most part and learn from people and take internships that benefit that. But the business and the communications is what I was really curious about.
Did you ever consider majoring in design?
Yeah, I considered it, but I definitely wanted to, I just thought I could figure that out myself.
So, looking at your clothing brand, Bushland, what inspired you to create this brand?
So it was really where I was at the time in high school. I wasn't very good at sports, and I hadn't picked a direction that I wanted to go. With my life, I was a little bit interested in sciences early on in elementary school and stuff, but that never really picked up, and I never got super into more traditional arts like painting or graphic design or anything like that. So I ended up just getting into clothing. My dad had a sewing machine. He used to make kites, actually. So I learned how to sew on that sewing machine, and slowly I picked up and learned how to do different pieces, and it was mostly self-taught, just trying it out in my bedroom.
So when did Bushland officially come to existence?
Right. So I did my first release in February 2018, so a while ago now, and it was very minimal to start. I've had a very a gradual growth, kind of like a natural growth. So I just started very plain with t-shirts, and I've started to do more elaborate stuff as I've gone on.
And it's just you, correct?
Yeah, it's just me. But I work with a lot of incredible people, between models, photographers. I outsource some screen printing, etc. So I work with a lot of great people who help me throughout the process: music, videography, etc.
So how would you describe the style of clothes that you create?
Right. So it's based on a lot of things. It's based on rural culture. So walking around stores like Walmart and Stop and Shop and corner stores and on the street and stuff. Just a lot of people who live in these the rural environments don't think of fashion right away. So it's really interesting to see what people who don't think about fashion choose to wear, and what they put together. And sometimes it'll be a bunch of mismatched things, random graphics. They're just not thinking about it, but that's what makes it so great, in my opinion.
And where does the name Bushland come from?
So you've probably heard of the bush in Alaska or the bush in Australia primarily. It's uncharted rural land that there's no law and people don't go to. So that's how I took it, to mean that discoverable land, unexplored.
And so when you are creating a design, what's your process look like?
So beginning, it's a lot of research, and the beginning is the really slow process. And I try to let that be as natural as possible. I try to just pull from all parts of my life. I go on long walks. I really enjoy going on just for really long walks and looking around, whether it's at home or whether it's out here. I'll just walk into the city and look at as many things as I can. And a lot of things come pretty naturally that way. And looking on the internet a lot too. I pull from all sorts of places. And usually it'll begin with, I'll see something that I like out on the street and want to pull an element from that, and I'll try to take it and think about it in a different way. So if I see someone wearing a pair of pants on the street that I like, I'll try to reinterpret it in a different way that fits my style. And a lot of it comes from textile exploration as well. As you can see, I have these, I don't know if you can see my fuzzy pants right now and the hat that's on the table. I work a lot with textile innovation, so trying to translate regular clothes and work with new textiles.
That's really cool. Yeah, those are awesome.
Thank you.
Those pants. So when you create the clothes, how do you create the clothes?
Right. So once I have the designs and the inspirations in mind and whatever processes I want to do, it starts with sketches. So I'll do sketches and try to solidify specific pieces about what I want to see them to look like. And a huge part of my brand is about the environment. That's one of the most crucial aspects of it. I think brands right now and brands coming up really shouldn't exist unless they're benefiting or sustainable. And brands have to be honest too, and really take that to heart, because our generation needs to carry through that and make it happen. So when I'm sourcing materials, it's almost always reclaimed materials. So I'll go into secondhand stores and get pieces. So these pants that I'm wearing are all from scrap denim, sewn, and then use a textile technique called chenille to cut them and make them look like this, to make them one section of fabric. And natural dyeing too is a big thing I work with when I start. So these were dyed with black walnuts actually, and then the hat on the table was dyed with turmeric. So it was like plain tan to begin with. So that's how it starts. It starts with sourcing textiles and really getting my hands into things as I continue.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about sustainability next,
Right.
actually. And I feel like fast fashion is starting to become a hot topic with our generation, or at least starting to. And I know you mentioned it on your website. And can you tell us a bit about sustainability, like what it means to you?
Yeah, well, what it means to me is honesty, really. I think even the big brands need to be honest, and even the small brands need to be honest. And that's one thing that I always try to push through my clothing, is when I list an item, I don't say 100% sustainable or 100% recycled, because I get the thread from the store. I don't have perfect thread. I get zippers. There's just even the small things people have to think about and really be honest with themselves, so that way they can be pushed to cut down as much as possible. So I'm trying to push sustainability in that sense, and make attractive clothing that people can get really excited about, so they don't feel the need to go to fast fashion. And try to create a community here around sustainability, so they don't feel the need to shop at H&M or some of the other brands.
So you mentioned the story of rural youth.
Yeah.
What does that mean?
So it means a lot of things, but primarily it's that I just think it's a story that hasn't been discussed about people who live in rural settings. I think that the urban settings are what primarily get portrayed in media, and I just think there's a lot of stories that can be told from rural environments about kids growing up in different settings than we're used to seeing on media. So I mean, I tell that story in different ways. Sometimes it's literal, and I'll tell a very specific story, but a lot of times it's through the clothes that I'm working with. So whether it's something that I've seen in my childhood, or just subtle elements that I'm playing with graphics, etc.
Do you think that growing up in a small town in rural Connecticut obviously it affected your desire to create these clothing, but do you think it inspired you in a different way than people that are creating clothes that are from big cities?
Yeah, and I think that's what I realized at a point, is that I didn't want to design in a way that wasn't true to myself. I didn't want to design thinking about it from as if I grew up in a big city, or pretend that I was from a big city, because I'm not. I'm from a small town with a few thousand people, and I wanted to stay true to that and allow that to be an element that makes me unique, and design with that element in mind.
What do you enjoy most about having this brand?
I enjoy a lot of things, really. It's the primary thing I do. So I enjoy designing. I enjoy like that aha moment when I know exactly what I'm going to do. There's a bunch of aha moments. I enjoy the aha moments when I see the models in the clothing. 'Cause a lot of times I'll design it ahead of time, and then when I see it all put together, that's just an incredible element of it. And I really enjoy working with the different people that I do. I mean, I'm one person like sewing and doing the social media for it, so I really enjoy working with people who do music and people who do like videography, because they can bring a lot of cool things to the table.
You touched about like how it's rural fashion that inspires you, but how does this differ from other clothing brands that people are creating right now?
Well, I haven't seen that many brands, especially small brands, promoting the like rural as a theme or pushing it in that sense. And in regards to like individuality, when I create pieces, I think about everything I've ever seen, and I take a lot of looks on the internet. I browse social media all the time and try to keep up to date with things. So I think of what I see all the time, and then I don't make that.
So you just want to create unique new pieces.
Yeah.
Where do you see Bushland going in the future?
Well, I mean, that's a great question. I think about that all the time. I'd like to see it grow into something bigger, and push elements besides just the fashion of it. So more social settings. I want to grow the community to be able to do like community videos, and have things where the community can really bring in. And like I've had people. I really enjoy when people dye my clothing. So like I made a bag once, and one of my friends dyed it with beets. So it's a method of natural dyeing, and it was just a beautiful purple color. And I love when people take my clothing and do something else with it, or just interpret it in a way that I haven't seen before. So I really want to grow the Bushland community.
People have been seeing your hat sitting on this table right
Yep,
here.
here it is.
Do you want to show us some of the other clothing items you brought?
Sure. So, well, can I discuss the hat first?
Of course.
So the hat is from the collection that's coming out on the 27th, actually, so in a couple of days from when this is filmed. It's called Speculation, and it has subtle themes of like magic and wonder. And this is, so this hat was made with muslin, which is a form of cotton that the fashion department uses to make samples, and that's what is used to make clothing samples across the industry. So the samples would be like a test garment to see if it fits correctly, see how it looks, and there'd usually be several. A lot of the muslin gets discarded in scrap bins. So this is actually from last year. I went in the labs and gathered the scrap muslin and then used it. I sewed all over it and formed it into this hat. And then I naturally dyed it with turmeric, which makes this yellow color. So trying to use things that get thrown away to make new things. So that was pretty exciting for me.
And you have some
Yeah, I do.
pants.
Yep, I have some pants and some shorts here. So I guess I'll start with, this is the oldest. This was one of the first pairs that I did. So the technique is called chenille, and it's created by layering denim and then cutting it vertically and then allowing it to fray in the washing machine and dryer, which creates this fuzz and unifies it as a textile. And you can see, so this was bleached chenille. So on the back you have all this variation of the way the bleach turned out. So that's one example.
Those are really cool.
Thank you. And then here's another pair of pants. This one was more recently. So this is another pair of chenille pants. They're a little bit boot cut. So these are dyed with black walnuts, which is from the walnut tree. And it's supposed to create a brown color, but natural dyes are very susceptible to different elements, such as like the pH in the water, or like the type of pot you use to cook it in. So this is chenille. It's like a light tan color, and I did these swirls in it instead of the vertical cuts, so for a little bit of variation.
Yeah, I like the swirls.
Thank you. And then here's one of the staple pieces I have here. So these are called studio shorts. So these were actually created around the start of, this silhouette was created around the start of COVID, because what I found is when I left school, I wasn't working in the studio anymore, so I didn't have like a calm setting to work in. A lot of times, I mean, my bedroom at home is pretty small, so I work in a lot of different areas, and I'm very mobile, so I work everywhere. So this was kind of like taking the studio and putting it into something that you can wear. So this pulls from boxing shorts, which have like the thick waistband and kind of the flare right here. They have big pockets for storing things while you work, and they are very comfortable. I wear them daily, actually, with a pair that I have back at my room. And this is one of my favorite silhouettes from the brand, because it's something that I found that's very comfortable, and I'm just replicating it in different fabrics and with different dye techniques.
So where can people find your merchandise?
So www.bushland.online is my website. So that will have all the merchandise on it. But I'm going to definitely encourage people to check out Bushland Century on Instagram, which is my Instagram page. So that's where I'm going to continue to grow the community, post videos, photos, and interact with people.
And is there anything else that our viewers should know about your brand?
Go check it out. Get involved. That's the point I'm really excited about, is to meet new people as I go forward.
Well, thank you so much for joining me today on Between Two Torches.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, it was a pleasure. Make sure you follow Josh on Instagram and follow LCTV on all our social media. This is going to be it for this episode of Between Two Torches. In the meantime, I'm Ellie Barrows, and thanks for watching.